So let's finally talk about my favorite faction in all of Planescape, the one that I gravitated towards immediately, the one that I loved above all others and spent most time playing when I played the game, the Bleak Cabal. The Bleak Cabal are a little bit of a, well, let's say a dark faction. That's why I'm wearing this black shirt. They're a bit of a grim faction, you know, it says in the name, even in their name they say they're bleak. They're sort of they can be a tad bit miserable, you might say.
Sorry. Did I say something wrong? Pardon me for breathing, which I never do anyway, so I don't know why I bother to say, oh God, I'm so depressed. Here's another one of those self-satisfied doors. Life. Don't talk to me about life.
No one even mentioned it.
The Bleak Cabal are the most unique faction in my way of thinking because they are sort of like the zero next to all of the other factions having numbers, or the black being the absence of color rather than being a color in itself. You see, all of the other factions, even the grim, occasionally violent ones, say like the Doomguard or the Anarchists or the Dustmen, believe that there is some sort of point, that there is some sort of answer to find. Even if the answer is depressing or miserable or dark, they believe that there is an answer. But the secret to the Bleak Cabal, the secret to the universe that they believe they've discovered, is that there is no secret. There's no secret whatsoever to the entire universe. It is all a random mass of nothing. There's no meaning to any of it. There's not even meaning in its meaninglessness. That would be the Chaositex, the Chaos Men. They believe there's meaning in meaninglessness or chaos. But the Bleak Cabal believe that there's nothing to find. You can look and look and look, and there's nothing that's going to be there. Now, the Bleak Cabal are based on nihilists to some degree, but also existentialists. You know, as with all of the Planescape factions, you can interpret it in many different ways, and probably the darkest way to interpret it is the nihilist way, that everything is worthless, everything is meaningless, nothing is okay, nothing is right, nothing matters at all, nothing really matters.
I want a life! This is life! We suffer, enslave, and expire. That's it!
And that can lead them to some very dark thoughts and to a sort of miserable depression about doing anything, like everything is worthless. But also you can look at it from the existentialist perspective, which states that there is no objective truth to anything. There is no ultimate overall meaning to anything that we do. But existentialism also seems to suggest that that's the jumping off point. We have to first admit that there is no objective truth to anything, but that gives us the power to choose how we're going to live our lives. And that's a major part of the Bleak Cabal. We have to decide why life is meaningless. We can't go out there and search for the meaning of life because it doesn't exist. There's nothing out there. You're looking for something that isn't there. We have to come up with the reason. And so the Bleak Cabal can be thought of as a really liberating faction because it strips away all this nonsense about trying to find some sort of purpose and lets us get down to the facts of each making up our own minds about what is meaning in the universe. Jean-Paul Sartre famously said that existentialism is a humanism. And that really is at the heart of the Bleak Cabal, because the Cabal are one of the most generous of all of the factions out there. They're not working towards gathering money or stuff or knowledge or anything like that. They put almost all of their efforts into helping other people. They're the nicest of all of them. They run soup kitchens, they run orphanages, they help the indigent, they help the homeless and poor, they help all the needy in the city, and that's where they feel that they can only get meaning. The only purpose to their lives is to help others, to aid others. Although it's not a perfect situation by any means. You see, they don't really necessarily feel that they should intellectually. Some of the people in the Bleak Cabal could be evil, you know, it has good and evil people in it, but both of them will try to help others because they have this gnawing, void-like emptiness that they believe they can only fill by ending this other suffering and helping people to live a better life. So they could be a chaotic evil demon, but they're in the Bleak Cabal. They believe nothing is meaningful unless they help others. Why that is exactly is very strange, because the Bleak Cabal are also known as the Madmen. And this attracted me to them immediately. Insanity is a huge part of the Bleak Cabal. because almost all of their members are suffering in some way or another from some kind of mental illness. In fact, if you're playing in the Bleak Cabal, you technically have to do a die roll every morning. But if you get a 1, you critically fail, you are chronically depressed. And you are so miserably depressed, you simply won't get up in the morning. You're not going to go out with your friends, you're not going to go to adventure. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a quest, you're not going to get out of bed. And you need to be convinced to get out of bed, and not by anything material. The book specifically says you can't tell someone who's experiencing this depression, hey, your friends are about to get eaten by that dragon, you have to help them. No, you need to philosophically convince them of the intellectual reason why they need to get up and why life is worth living. And helping your friends not get eaten by that dragon, that's very much not going to help.
Well, I'm no psychologist, sir, but maybe the bleak, lonely, pointless emptiness of our hopeless, futile predicament is beginning to get to him.
And if you get a 20, you're manic for the day, and you actually get a bonus. But it's fantastic, and I really love that. And their headquarters, the faction headquarters, is the Madhouse of Sigil. It's a gigantic sanitarium where they look after the city's mad population. And madness and insanity seem an inevitable consequence of what is going to happen if you accept the truths of the Bleak Cabal. And they feel that everyone else is actually insane. They think that they're the only sane ones, and insanity is the only rational option in the face of what the universe really is. It may be difficult in some ways to recognize why a Bleak Cabal member would want to go on an adventure. Why they would want to get up off their duff and head out into the world and do things.
There's a whole new life stretching out in front of you.
Oh, not enough.
Father, will you shut up and listen? This time there's going to be excitement and adventure and really wild things.
Sounds awful.
What would be the purpose of them adventuring? Well, there are all sorts of reasons. Maybe they're not entirely convinced of the meaninglessness of their situation. They suffer miserably every day, they feel, and are miserably depressed. Why would they sit by and do nothing if someone's going to make it even worse than it already is? And the Bleak Cabal are willing to stand up for themselves when the time comes, when push comes to shove. They're actually willing to go out and do those things. It's just, and maybe they just want to help people. They feel they want to go and explore the world to find some way to help their madness, or maybe help somebody else that's insane, or end the suffering of others. They don't have the same kind of base material reason to go out. You're not really supposed to become a millionaire if you're in the Bleak Cabal. I think they strongly suggest that you should that they should give you any kind of money or treasure that you make on the quest, minus expenses, of course, back to the Bleak Cabal or give it to charity. You're not really supposed to hang on to those sorts of things. But I think there are a lot of good, interesting reasons for you to go out there in the Bleak Cabal, even though they may be convinced at getting off their ass in the morning and actually doing some work. One of the interesting factors about the Cabal is that they're the only faction that never campaigns for more members. They never actually go out and go on membership drives. They never encourage people to join their organization. Even the other ones with more elitist memberships, they still ask people to join. They want people to join. But the Bleak Cabal actually discourages people from joining, if you believe that. And it takes a long time of gradually working into the Cabal of being a member of it. You just have to kind of show up and exist there and help them out of the soup kitchens and work for a while and prove over a year or so that you really want to be in this and you really follow the faction's tenets. They also have a lot of trouble in their faction in terms of insanity, because so many of their members have mental problems, especially depression being the major one, that routinely members, especially senior members, will simply go insane. They go on something, the head of the organization goes on something called the Grim Retreat. Every couple years, one of the faction leader will simply go insane and he'll have to pick another one. It's not like other factions where they can exist for centuries and centuries. They have a high turnover rate of people running the faction. Oddly enough, they can actually sometimes become the most powerful faction in all of Sigil, because it waxes and wanes. Sometimes other groups do membership drives, and the Bleak Cabal goes down and down and down, and people are in a fervor of wanting to believe something, but eventually that always collapses, and people stop believing. They feel everything is useless, and the numbers of the Bleak Cabal go up and up until they're the most powerful faction in the Sigil for years. But eventually that will collapse, because they can't really, they're already having a lot of trouble dealing with their own mental problems. They can't function and run this huge organization, like, especially with new members that have trouble accepting the darkness of the faction's tenets with the same kind of peace that the other ones do.